So obviously, everyone wants to find clients. Yeah. Uh, and had a conversation with an assistant about this today. You know, this is almost like a new theme that we're harping on. Finding clients is the last step of the process. It's everything before that matters before you get to finding clients. And for people, there are people who, assistants who get nervous moving from a W-2 role to a fractional EA role and say, ooh, I'm not used to handling multiple clients, or ooh, I don't know what my day looks like or whatnot. And then there are people who be like, yeah, it's the exact same thing. I can handle this. I already handle 5 different principals in my current seat. I can handle 3 clients. Absolutely. I'm in. How do I find clients? And it's that latter one that is not thinking through the process. And it is a process. There are steps along the way. And if you go just to finding clients, you're going to email everyone you know and say, "Do you need an executive assistant?" And you're going to get 0 clients. 0. Even if you email 100 or 500, you know, it's a process. It's running a sales process. And this executive assistant has SDR experience, sales development representative experience, and they know how to run a process, run a new business process, and they can talk that language of CRMs and process and messaging and tone and pain points and benefits and value and cost and all of it. You got to do the same thing when you're rolling out a process of finding clients as a fractional EA. And so, the finding clients is putting the cart before the horse. If you've done all the work and you're finding clients, well, then we have a process for that. And you have to think of it like a multi-step process. You have to have patience, you have to have detachment, you have to have a runway so you're not feeling pressured by money to where your detachment goes out the window when you get a prospect who could potentially really be a great client for you. So, of course, finding clients. The sad part about this poll is that number 2 is imposter syndrome. I think what's interesting is the difference between finding clients is the biggest challenge and leveraging LinkedIn, which is the lowest by far. And they're actually connected in a huge way. If leveraging LinkedIn is not your problem, meaning you're an executive assistant who has over 1,000 connections and 80% of them are people who you actually know, finding clients is not the problem because they're right there. Or they're right there through an introduction. And that's where the process comes in. So leveraging LinkedIn and finding clients are totally connected. But people have this notion that they're great at leveraging LinkedIn because they comment on posts and they post things. That's not the good part of LinkedIn. The good part of LinkedIn is being connected to as many people who actually know, like, and trust you, and who you know either through a virtual relationship on Zoom or some other platform, or you actually worked with and were in the same room with. Even if it's that board chair from the company that was going to buy the company that you work for with the CEO, and you were tasked with spending a day with him as he had meetings throughout the business to see what they were going to charge or what they were going to pay for the business. Well, as an EA, I've done that. It's like the dog and pony show, and you've got to set up their agenda. You've got to get their flight coming in, greet them at the door when the car service drops them off, introduce yourself, make sure they're fed, and by the end of the day, if you've done it right, they're slapping you on the back and saying, "Oh my gosh, thanks for helping me. This is great." And then they leave and you go back to your computer and you connect with them on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, it was a really great day today. I I wish you all the best. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. Best of so and so. They're going to connect with you. And that person you could reach out to 5 years later on LinkedIn and work a sales process, work a process. And it's not sales to him or her, it's the process of seeing where this person fits in the sphere and doing that without sounding salesy, because you're not. You're just creating a more deeper relationship. Now, the imposter syndrome and pricing and positioning, those two are linked and they're both kind of at the same level. And I think if people had a very strong feeling that their pricing and positioning were correct, it would decrease their imposter syndrome. So if the if they had a really strong feeling on pricing and positioning, which we call experience-based positioning, that leads to your pricing and business model, and if you look at it in that sphere and then and you embody that, you're like, damn straight I was worth $120,000 as an executive assistant supporting the CFO of a Fortune 500 company. Yeah, and I kicked butt for him. I worked for him for 12 years and I can do that for others. And that's why my pricing is, you know, 3,500 a month for a third of my resources and you'd be lucky to have me. Well, then the imposter syndrome goes down because, you know, you have a way to explain what you're doing and tie it back to where you've come from, and that helps the client hook into why you're charging what you're charging and what your worth is and the value you bring and how you can help them.